there's that adult, kind of whatever term or mantra philosophy that people don't quit companies, they quit managers. And I believe that. Now, mind you, there could be a toxic company, bad mission, all those pieces. But if you have a good mission, you have a good vision for your company, you lead with humility, you're going to have a team that will stay longer with you, will follow you more, down these sort of uncertainty, the moments. They won't bail when, when the storm starts to flood the boat slightly. They're going to pick up a pail and they're going to bail out water with you. And I feel like that again transcends into how you deliver your services or experiences or products or goods to your clients is when you lead with positivity. It's where we get some of our best talent is because we have really healthy employees that are positive and they want to be around more positive and infectious people like that.
Welcome to the Maverick Paradox podcast, the show for business owners, organizational leaders, and the pathologically curious. I'm Judith Germain, a Maverick leadership expert exploring what it really takes to lead in a world that doesn't always make sense. If you're ready to think differently, challenge the status quo, navigate complexity, and drive real impact, you're in the right place. And today our guest is Jarrod Lopiccolo. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I think I'm having a little bit better weather here in Nevada than you are in England,
You absolutely are.
That's typical though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So I see there you've got like a ton of books there. Do you have a favorite genre or anything?
This top rack that you see there is mostly the self-help books. We've been in business now for 21 years. And so those were very much like those early days, the Good to Greats, everyone that you can imagine you can pull from, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, those. And then the lower half is sort of the collection books. Those are all the first edition or books that we just picked up over our travels. We love to travel the world. So then there's a lot of knickknacks on there, little artifacts that one day our kids will inherit,
That sounds cool. I wish to have some first editions, but I have none.
Yeah, my wife is, her background, we started the company together and she's a copywriter by trade. And so she
Right.
just gravitates towards good writers. So we have a lot of Mark Twain in Nevada. Mark Twain was pretty present here for a while. And so he wrote some great books. So we have quite a few of his first edition books. But yeah, no, outside of that, just great books that we pick up along our travels.
Brilliant. So tell us a little bit more about you, Jarrod.
Yeah. So, well, I'm 44 years old. My wife is, 46. We both started the company when in our early 20s. We came right out of university. I was set to be one of the youngest architects in the U.S. And, she was set to be one of the better copywriters. We were both working out of Vegas. She was working on the campaign, Let's Be Better, or excuse me, What Happens in Vegas Stays in Vegas. So everyone kind of knows that type of campaign. And we just decided, you know what, we're both talented. Let's, the idea of creating, what we like to call like meaningful connections and tying the internet with one human to another human. And we just saw that as an opportunity. So instead of going into physical architecture, we went into virtual architecture, sort of helping build, the internet. And we started out building, websites and digital experiences. And then over time, we started adding more performance marketing services, really attracting traffic to these digital ecosystems that we build. And then now we're considered a full service agency where we do brand strategy, all the way from campaign development to, putting it out in the world and then driving them back to websites, landing pages, things like that. And we typically work in the travel and tourism space and just love the business. We really use the business as a vehicle to create a healthy culture, positive leadership, and so now we're no longer, if you will, we're no longer craftspeople or tradespeople. We're now business people. So our clients are our team members. And when we, hit a home run, it's when we have a high retention rate of staff, or we've attracted a brand new talent, or we've created a new partner. And so, yeah, it's been a really great journey so far, and we've got, much more to go.
That sounds fantastic. I think it kind of bemuses me that the phrase "what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas" actually came from an ad campaign, because it's something that people say all the time in leadership courses and all sorts of places. To think that came from an ad is just funny. It's just
I know. You think about that over the years, those kinds of like the got milks and, things like that, they all sort of become subconscious and part of our subculture. And then there's all these little spin-offs and references. And and whatnot. So yeah, to your point though, it is definitely permeated into society in every sort of facet. And then you see it in sports and you see it in business and everything else. It's fun to actually watch over the years these things, or be at the beginning of some of these things, and then watch them how they take form and shape, with the rest of us.
I wonder, does she giggle every time she hears someone say it and think, I did that?
Yeah, she's like, "Oh my gosh, I was on that." It's you at some point you become a little desensitized to it. We worked on some really crazy cool campaigns in our early days, Beats by Dr. Dre and the Pokemon, Go sort of like explosion that happened, got everyone outside and on their phones, and now we're just sort of, but you get a little desensitized. At the same time, you're very proud of like, wow, I was part of that. Like that was like, without us, it might have been slightly different. And, maybe it would have
Mm.
still existed in some form, but we definitely helped contribute, nudging it in a direction. And that's, there's definitely some proud moments about that.
That's funny. Part of history. So I know you've done some work with Disney. What did you do?
Yeah, so well, it was back in the early days of, and I call it like the Silicon Valley days. We were really one of the, only tech kind of companies. It was hard to find other companies that were building digital experiences. And so we worked with all the major big brands, the Autodesks, the Adobes, the Microsofts, the Intels, the Disneys and stuff. And with Disney in particular, I think it was a dinosaur movie they were launching, and we were used for activation. So we ended up building landing pages and build out ads. And then there was one other one, I forget the name of its movie, but effectively we were doing some campaign development, for them. And one of our contacts, like usually what happens in good business when you do a good job, is when that contact leaves the firm they're at, they go to another place. Oftentimes they bring you with you. And so it was right around 2008, 2009 when we had the recession happen. Kind of business went quiet for like 4 or 5 months while everyone kind of, if you will, redistributed themselves and got new jobs. And then we started getting phone calls from everyone. Hey, remember we worked at Autodesk? Or, oh, remember we worked at Adobe? And that was one of the contacts over there. And it was fun. We had about a 2 years, period where we were just doing quite a few different little campaign pieces with them. And of course, would love to have even gone deeper in to the Disney world, but they have their own major companies and brands they work with, and a lot of it's done internally these days too.
Yeah, that's what happens, isn't it? They test these big companies test it out with externals and then go, you
Yes.
know what? It's actually cheaper if we just had our own people. That's
We can
just
build that internally, exactly, and you see that a lot, and I don't disagree. That's a great tactic, but at the same time, you start to lose that freshness and that newness. A lot of agencies, they'll bring that in. They'll work on one thing for one client, and they'll realize, well, we can cross pollinate these learnings into this other totally adjacent industry or different industry and bring some brand new thinking. And so that's the only caveat. So we love working with clients that have really well built internal teams where they can do some of that executional work. They have that tribal knowledge of their industry or their competitors, but we're bringing this external net new thinking to the table. And that's where the real magic kind of happens.
no, sounds cool. So you said your customers were your employees. How do you go around nurturing talent then?
Yeah, talent it's one of those things where you think of culture and talent, you think, oh, if I just do these things, we'll have good culture, or I'll do these things. But I think it actually starts with wanting to have like a meaningful connection with other people. And that's something that I've always done, whether it's a stakeholder, a partner, a client, a vendor, a subcontractor, or whatever, a team member. It's always about trying to have a deep, meaningful connection with that person. So I think it has to start there. You have to actually be genuinely interested in this person. And what I think people miss or realize that they think, oh, well, that person likes sports, so I'm probably not going to get along with that person because I don't like sports, or that person drinks wine. I don't like to drink wine. In fact, I've been sober for 5 years, or whatever the case is. And actually the reality is through just a small bit of exploration of conversation, you can find something that you can have a meaningful connection with someone on. And it could be family, it could be kids, it could be pickleball, it could be hiking, or a good book or something like that. And so I feel like we're, that Kevin Bacon 2 degrees of separation. I think we have that same thing when it comes to interest. And so I start there. I start there always of like, let's find a meaningful connection, something that's authentic that we can use, if you will, as a backbone. So we can always rely on. It allows us to open up conversation. It's a soft entry. Hey, how was your weekend? Oh, you went hiking. Oh, yeah, so did I. Or, oh, you you had a good bottle of wine. Oh yeah, I did this and I had a good bottle as well. And whatever the case is, you find that moment and that allows you to ladder back. Then once you've sort of established that meaningful connection, that's when you actually start to, you know, uh, become more interested and understand where are these goals, what is their career development, what I ask questions all the time, like what does success look like a year from now? When if you're no longer working at Noble, where would you be working? What would that look like? And just being curious, I think a lot of people find that you don't have to be curious about someone else's life. It should only just be yours. And so I bring those things to the table. Really form an authentic connection. Be curious, and really trying to unlock where do they want to go in life? What are their goals? What are their aspirations? And when you do that, I think you build a bond with someone, and then you can actually align it to like the business goals and objectives and the vision and mission and all those other sort of objective type of measurements.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think we miss the fact that we are connected, or with just a little bit of effort. I remember when I was much younger. I mean, I'm not a Brit that's into football, but I
Right.
used to I used to know enough. I used to make a point of knowing enough to have a bit of so I'd know who's played and I'd know who what and like my colleagues, I'd knew their teams. So I spent an hour or a little bit of
Yep.
time or via osmosis when you're reading the paper or something just to go, oh, okay. So I could have kind of enough of a conversation for it to be meaningful. Um,
Yep.
and I don't think anyone knew that I didn't really enjoy football.
Oh yeah. Well, that's that whole fake it until you make it kind of thing. But you know what? You probably found some enjoyment of it, even though as you
Yeah,
were
it
doing that
was.
exploration, you're gonna find something you're like, actually, I really did enjoy this one piece because you were curious and you were doing it to potentially, create an authentic connection with someone else. But in that process, you actually find that you learned something and you enjoyed it.
And I think you're right because I lent into the curiosity. So I knew. So if someone was talking, I would say maybe I knew which team had won and who scored the goal. But just asking questions and listening to people getting excited and talking
Yes.
over, then this happened, and I might not have seen it, but I could have been there, and it was just fun. It was enjoyable because you're part of the excitement of that individual, and I suppose, and then they're more likely to be interested in the stuff that you're interested in, and it was a great way to be connected to
Well, yeah,
people.
and I think once you have that connection, that's when you really can drive those business objectives, right? So at the end of the weekend, it's on a Monday, and we're at our first meeting with my sales and marketing team, and truly interested. How was your weekend? And it's
Mm.
not just, quick conversation. It's, sometimes takes up 10, 15 minutes, versus out of an hour meeting. And people might think that's a waste of time. Let's just get to brass tacks. Let's move forward. Let's talk about our objective this week. But once you have that connection, then everyone's smiling, everyone's happy, and then you can actually get through the meeting quite faster because it actually accelerates other parts of it. And then we can start talking about the objectives. Okay, so it's going to be a hard week. Yeah, we're pitching that big company. That's right. Yep, that's right. Okay, what do we need help with? Where are we at? And it feels like a team as opposed to like a demand or an order. All right, so we're going to show up right really strong for that pitch. It's like no, like we're locked arms and we're all ready to go. And I think a lot of that is because they feel like they are working somewhere that they can bring their whole selves to work. They can talk about their weekend. They can talk about personal things. And I mean, I've had employees cry to me and say, "Hey, I'm going through an issue with my partner, and if in case I show up weird over the next couple weeks, like this is the reasons why. No worries. I totally get it. You just let's come up with a safe word. And if you use it, I know you need the day off or you need out or whatever it is. And if you don't have that authentic connection, you can't help that individual. And at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, right? We want to bring ourselves to work. We want to do a good job. We want to know that what we're working on is filled with purpose. And we want to make meaningful connections with the people that we work with. And it's hard to do that if you just kind of cash it in and you're not really authentic about their interests and whatnot. So that I would say if you were listening and you really want to connect with your culture and your team, like actually give a shit about them. That's the first start. And then after that, it'll all start to fall in place.
Yeah, and it needs to be genuine as
Has to.
well. And I think once you lean into curiosity, then whatever the topic is, it can be an interesting topic. You don't need it doesn't
Yep.
it's not faking.
Yep.
Because I was always clear, like, no, I didn't have a team, and no, I'm not going to
Yes.
get into it. But it was no different. Like, if you're reading a newspaper and I glance over the sports page and I get the headlines and stuff, it's no different from me talking about, I don't know, the fires in, the Californian fires. It's
Yep.
in the sense that it's information that you can then ask questions about and lean into. So
Yeah.
I think that's
It's funny that you mentioned you're not really into sports. I haven't been either, but I know so many people that are. And so what I tell them, what I love about sports is, the team and that they come together and the discipline that they have and the training they
Mm.
go through and the fact that they then get in front of the stadium and how that relates to Rome and the gladiators and being in a stadium and feeling the energy of that human energy that's in there and the explosions that happen and the food, and it's got a nostalgic element. I mean, there's so many things I can relate with, but I don't have a team and I don't know. And if you were to put literally like my life on the line to name 5 team members, I probably wouldn't be here, and that's okay. It's like, but I can relate on so many of the other emotional elements of what they get out of following a team and having a team and going to these games and watching them through the season. And I can relate on so many other levels, but I just don't have a team.
Yeah, and I remember, as I remember years ago, and I'm much younger, and me and this guy at work was just, ribbing each other, and I started taking the mick out of his football team, and then he
Yep.
sort of said, "How do you know this stuff? I thought you went into football." And I was thinking, "I know this stuff," and it's because you've done all that little bit of information, on the bus
Yep.
on the way to work, turn on the last back of the paper and looking at the sports page, and it only takes 5 minutes. But by osmosis, I've managed to had enough information to rib him about his team. So
That's awesome. That's
it was
so good.
well done. So
Enough to be dangerous. Well, if you can, as I always say, like if you can argue or use slang in another language, then you're in and you're bilingual. It's the same, I think, with sports. If you can rip someone else's sports team, then you're bilingual in sports, even if you don't watch it.
especially as you've got literally no input into like you got no side to
Exactly.
defend, so there's like you can't get back at you because you're like
Yeah.
you can't ever go
Yeah.
at
Like,
me because I don't care about any of them.
yeah, make fun of my team. I don't have one. So, oh, that's good.
Let's listen to a quick advert. I create clear thinking and decisive leaders who can amplify their influence. Contact me to find out how I can help you or your organisation. Welcome back to the Maverick Paradox. This is the podcast for the pathologically curious. So how do you move that into making sure you get, a culture that enables innovation? Because that's
Yes.
something that people talk about a lot, but still struggle to
Yeah.
define a good culture and to make it work.
Well, I think so. I guess it first starts with safety. I think people have to feel safe to bring their whole selves to work. They have to feel safe to fail. They have to feel safe to try new things out. So I think it starts first with that meaningful connection, making them feel safe, focusing on their career development, knowing that they can, they can thrive in this environment. Then I think it's a matter of starting to develop skill sets, mindsets, and tool sets. And so, for us in particular, we created an innovation council. And I'd recommend this for any company, no matter what industry you're in, your agency, it doesn't matter. Really, be intentional about carving out a portion of your budget, 1%, 5%, towards innovation, towards discovery, research. Bring people into your company that, maybe represent different service areas or different perspectives or points of view within your company. Have them sit on the council. And then depending on your business, somehow you're going to exercise that budget, whether it's in the form of hours or time or whatnot, to provide it for other team members to be curious, right? We talk about curiosity. That really needs to happen. You can't really get curious if you're in a fear state or if you're not feeling safe. And so for us in particular, in fact, this year's theme, we always have a theme every year. It's, better this. Last year was better connections. This year is actually better curiosity, and it's very fitting with the rise of AI and the adoption of net new tools and new ways of working and remote work and distributed offices, all those pieces. We really wanted to empower people to adopt this theme of better curiosity, and it does come with them feeling safe. They can try new things. It's about communicating why you're trying those things. And I think that's it. I think it's pretty simple. It's a matter of like, make sure they feel safe and then give them a vehicle, some sort of a tool or an initiative inside the company where there's structure and they feel like, oh, this is an invested interest, instead of just saying, hey, why don't you go out and just be curious or download that thing. be intentional about it, right? Build a framework for it, report on it. So on a monthly basis, we're reporting from the Innovation Council what has been done, what projects we're currently working on, what tools that we adopted and we're trying out, and if it passes, we're going to then give everyone, a license for it and those kinds of things. We also, with the rise of AI, we're subscribing to this idea of BYO AI. So it's like, instead of bring your own drinks, right? It's like don't bring your own AI tools. You as a company should be providing those tools. Again, no matter what industry you're in, there's naturally a need for one of these tools, whether it's a ChatGPT or a Claude or, you name it, they're out there. So I think there's that also is like being intentional about, innovation itself, whether it's through those, again, tool sets, skill sets, mindsets. That's really how we adopted, and it's been going really good. I mean, our team feels very like empowered to try new things, and if they fail, they explain why they failed, and failing is just as important as succeeding. That's actually where we typically learn the most is when you fail. It's just you just don't fail the same thing over and over again because then we're not learning. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're doing, and it's working really well.
I think that's brilliant. I love the idea of an innovation council. And you said that that would work in any industry. And I'm just thinking about that. I think it would work in any industry, but
Yeah.
most industries would not even contemplate thinking about it because they don't see their service or what they do to be innovative to
That's right.
warrant innovation. So
Yep.
what do you say about that?
Yeah, I do think that when you think the word innovation, to me, it's really about not inventing, right? Not starting something brand new, but it's taking something that exists and altering it, right? Optimizing it slightly or adjusting it slightly based on either environmental conditions or, service conditions or political conditions, whatever, you name it. And so I think that there is truly the if explore that idea, no matter what industry you're in, if you were to create an innovation council that brought problems to the council that existed within your industry, right? It could be if it's healthcare, it could be privacy, so how do we, still maintain privacy while providing better customer service and care because people are feeling like doctors are just using their phones to diagnose, these days. So we're missing that customer service aspect. Or so just pick any industry, see where there's a problem. If you had this innovation council that was allowed to explore ideas, remove constraints or add constraints, hey, we're going to do this in this time frame, and that's a constraint we're going to add, or we're going to do this with no budget, that's a constraint we're going to add. But just it really allows that exploration, that creative thinking, that out of the box, like imagine if we had all the opportunities in the world, what will we do? And it just it really changes your mindset. Otherwise, you go into work on a normal basis and you're like, okay, I've got these 10 things and I'm going to do them consistently. And I'm going to do, because I did that last time and it worked. But I'm not going to try something new because, I don't have time for that, for instance, because my schedule is full. So by having this innovation council, like I said, it's an intentional initiative that gives permission for you to think differently, for you to go about a problem that you normally solve a different way, and that's when the magic again happens. Is when there's that unlock that happens. And sometimes these things are sitting right in front of us, the most obvious things, and we see it in businesses. We see it like, oh wow, Uber was so smart. It was like there was already an infrastructure of vehicles on the road. We had the rise of applications, and now we can connect our phone to ordering a vehicle and track it, and the safety of doing reviews allows me to trust the driver. And it was like it was all sitting there. It was all there. It just happened to be someone that put it together. And I see that a lot in the world. It's like these moments where it just sitting there, sort of right underneath the leaves. And all you have to do is brush the leaves aside, and there's the idea. But it takes you to kind of think outside the box to see those opportunities. And I do believe they exist in every industry.
Hmm, I agree. But I think somehow innovation gets pushed out of like
Yeah.
service industries because it's not fee earning. It's not,
Yeah.
nobody wants to spend the time to think about innovation. They just want you to carry on doing the same old, same old.
Well, what it is it's just truly that we're driven by growth or profitability, right? It's like if your company's growing, then you're successful by definition. But wouldn't a company that didn't grow but still like had a really healthy work environment, continue to give, team members, yearly annual raises, gave back to the community and maybe maintain their profitability of 15%, that would still be definition of success. But we don't see it that way. We see growth as success and we see more profits as success. So maybe it might be that depending on if you're going to adopt innovation inside your organization, you might need to speak that love language at first, right? To those to the board of directors or to that buyers committee or whatnot. You might need to say, hey, listen, we're going to form this innovation committee with the intent of year one to look at profitable opportunities. And that doesn't mean like, let's replace people with software, but it might mean that, hey, we can add this extra service onto what we're currently doing for our clients. And it's a recurring service and it's a high margin service, or we're going to add this thing, or we've partnered with this organization that takes away this administrative cost and allows our team members to be more strategic. And so I think you might have to go in with the lens of what that love language is for a lot of companies, which is profitability and growth. And that might be how you adopt the first year, and then after that, then you can look for that what I call the white space, right? It's this open field of opportunities. But you might have a resisting, culture or leadership to that at the onset. But once you've proven like, look, I made us more profitable. We've streamlined that service. We get it out faster. We can do our discoveries quicker or whatever the case is, however that measurement is. Maybe that's what you need to do initially to get that buy-in. But then I think really, unlocking people's creativity is where, again, is where you'll actually see the most gains.
No, I totally agree with you. I think it's a case that companies want people to innovate, but what they don't want is to give them the time to innovate. And I think that's the problem, the thinking time that's required to go, oh, I wonder if what happened to this? It's like, oh, what's going on? So tell me, do you see a connection between attitude and leadership?
Oh, tremendous. I mean, I as a leader, I've always subscribed to the philosophy that I will charge into battle, if you will, as an analogy, as opposed to ordering people into battle. And there's a big difference. And what I mean by that is that most companies are going to hit some stormy patch of weather, and it's going to be that positive attitude where you lock arms with everyone and you solve that problem together and you get out of the storm. And that is what's going to get you out of those moments, as opposed to ordering them to solve the problem. And so I think positive attitude is just infectious. It's what separates good companies from great companies. There's that adult, kind of whatever term or mantra philosophy that people don't quit companies, they quit managers. And I believe that. Now, mind you, there could be a toxic company, bad mission, all those pieces. But if you have a good mission, you have a good vision for your company, you lead with humility, you're going to have a team that will stay longer with you, will follow you more, down these sort of the moments. They won't bail when, when the storm starts to flood the boat slightly. They're going to pick up a pail and they're going to bail out water with you. And I feel like that again transcends into how you deliver your services or experiences or products or goods to your clients, is when you lead with positivity. It's where we get some of our best talent, is because we have really healthy employees that are positive and they want to be around more positive and infectious people like that. So they refer people to come work at Noble. We of course offer a referral program for those things, but I think positivity and positive attitude in general is what separates a good company from a great company. If you look at some of the companies and why they eventually die, because most companies, I mean, just like humans, eventually it will die. It's the people that carry it for the longest life that it can, possibly have. And it's not ones that, are tyranny or negative. Those will typically, peter off pretty quickly when they hit those stormy patches of weather. So yeah, I think positive attitude is everything. I wouldn't want to work anywhere. In fact, I hate to say this, but we have a no asshole clause. It's in the employment agreement, and it's also in our SOWs with our clients, because time is short and there's no reason to work with bad people,
It sounds amusing to me to have a clause like that, because it is sufficiently maverick. But as an ex HR professional, it kind of bemuses me, because you wouldn't be able to kind of do that in the UK.
Yeah. And believe me, we have a UK office. We very much have to, tread those waters. But and I, that's when we first called it that. Now it's something else. It's really about like respect and, being professional and treating people with, with equality and, inclusivity. Like it's very written much better now. But when it first happened, it was because we had a client that I was really concerned about working with. And I brought those concerns up. I said, this person just kind of talks over people. They don't let them finish their sentences. They're the smartest person in the room. And they're passive aggressive, and so they said, well, what would you like to do? I said, well, if we're going to work with this particular marketing manager, I need to have a clause that gets us out in the event that my team is feeling, verbally abused or whatnot. Well, so they said, well, why don't we create, a no asshole clause? And so I laughed. I said, okay, so we called it that. And that was in the and we actually, unfortunately, had to exercise that. And they fired that individual that worked inside the company. We continued to work with the company. And so now it became this lore, if you will, this folklore, and it sits inside the company. But no, it's definitely not called that nowadays. To your point of HR, and we're a lot more sensitive these days than we were, a little more Mad Men style, if you will, or Mad Max even in those early days. So
That's funny. I remember many years ago hearing about that, and I wonder whether it was your company you were referencing, actually, because I remember hearing about that clause and going, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." So
it might.
there
I
again,
mean,
that's all you do then, isn't it? Really, get your stuff globally around the world.
that's it. Permeate the world. That's actually one of truly. I know this sounds crazy. That's one of the reasons why we opened up our UK office, and we have 16 amazing individuals that live there. But we felt like, and I mentioned this earlier, that Noble is sort of the vehicle to do good now. And while we do it through the services we provide, if we were building Tupperware, we would still probably have these same ethos and values, and want to make sure that people can bring their whole selves to work and stuff. And so when we opened in the UK office, we thought, what a great opportunity for us to bring what we've learned from leadership and business and design and frameworks and all those things. Let's bring that over into the UK, and it's been thriving. We've been receiving great awards lately for the culture and the team and the service work we're doing, and that is our goal. Like, we're in this mode where we want to continue to grow, not for the sake of growing commercially and then selling one day. And if that happens, great. But it's actually more about, spreading this infectious positivity, this mantra that we live by, which is let's be better every day. And we want more humans in the world to do this. We want them to bring their whole selves to work. They want to unlock their best versions of themselves and spread kindness, right? And just because that's what we can do, that's what we can influence. So we're going to use Noble as a vehicle to spread happiness.
Fantastic. I feel like that's a great place to stop there, Jarrod, and it's a great mission to have.
Well, thank you. We after 21 years of running a business, you're kind of a tuning fork, and you pick up, based on who you bump into, or an experience you have, and we keep tuning and tuning ourselves to wanting to just be this great company, and we feel it with the team we work with, the stakeholders, the partners. It's just we're very blessed. We're very blessed, very fortunate, and I subscribe to the pay it forward model. I want to always help others, and so that's where I'm at in my life right now.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jarrod, for coming on the show.
Judith, thank you. I really appreciate it. Great conversation.
Yes, it's been fun. And thank you out there for tuning in to the Maverick Paradox podcast. I am Judith Germain, your host, and I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Are you leading or just managing? The best leaders amplify their influence, not their workload. I'm Judith Germain, a multi-award winning leadership expert, and my Amplify Your Impact and Influence mentoring helps senior leaders cut through uncertainty, strengthen their leadership identity, and lead with confidence. No off-the-shelf solutions, just tailored, strategic mentoring that works. Ready to lead with greater impact? Visit bit.ly/amplify influence impact to find out more.